Hey there, wonderful listeners. Welcome back to another episode of Blueprint for Life. Whether you're tuning in for the first time or you're back for more, I want you to know just how much I appreciate you being here. Now, whether your pants are hanging low, your skirts are tight, or you're more at home in a sharp suit or an elegant ankle-length dress, this message is for everyone. We're all on this journey together, and every single one of you has a place right here. I'm excited to relaunch our series with one clear purpose: to share truths unapologetically, but with a heart full of grace. Here we keep it real. We chat about life's ups and downs without judgment and always with open arms. So grab a comfy seat, take a deep breath, and let's dive in. There's a unique path laid out for each of us, and together we can explore the boundless possibilities that lie ahead. Thanks for joining me on this journey. Let's get started.
Sometimes it's necessary to start over, to refresh, to take a step back, take stock of what you've been doing, and to try to get an understanding of whether or not things are working the way you want them to. Really just to get a better understanding of what you're doing. The last time you saw me, in between that time, that's what I had to do. I got sick. It's crazy. But I guess that's what happens when you have a daughter in daycare. They come home with all kinds of crazy stuff. If your immune system ain't up to par, you find out real quick. And that's what happened. I had to take a step back and reassess some things, whether or not what I was doing was effective. I wanted to revamp a few things. So I took some time off, reassessed, and now I'm trying to get back at it again. And my prayer is that you go with me, and let's see where this thing takes us. So the last few weeks have been a little tough. I got over the illness, and we had a lot of things going on in the news, in the media, in society in general. I've seen some of the worst and most terrible things being said by people that claim to be Christians. For the sake of party affiliations, we have cast away what it means to be Christian, literally to be Christ-like. Matthew 25, 35, and 36 references when Jesus taught concerning the final judgment and what would be said to those who had shown mercy, those who had fed and quenched his thirst, welcomed him when he was a stranger, clothed him when he was naked, and visited him when he was sick and in prison. Those would be the ones to receive eternal glory. When those people showed confusion, when could we have possibly shown you this mercy? When could we have possibly done all of these things for you? When did we feed you? When did we give you something to drink? When did we clothe you when you were naked? When did we visit you when you were sick or in prison? And his response is, when you did those things for the least of these brothers or sisters of mine, you did them for me. But now we're living in a time when political party has become more important than our obligations to God. When did that happen? When did it become more important to be Republican or Democrat or independent than it became about being Christian? When did that become a thing? I thought it was supposed to be God over everything, not I'm a Republican and these are my important points, and oh, by the way, I'm a Christian. Nah, man. It was supposed to be faith first. And then we might be able to talk about my political affiliations. But we've gotten so wrapped up in this thing, the so-called party of faith has tossed faith out the door. And we just around here throwing weight around as if we just gonna make you do what we want you to do. Not even pretending. I mean, literally, the Republican Party isn't even pretending anymore. They are the party of Christian values. Like, come on now. Your top guy isn't even pretending as if he's a Christian. He doesn't stand for anything Christ-like. The guy's a documented liar. Been married 3 times because of infidelity. When did it become more about political leaning than our faith? And even the Democratic Party, seriously, it's not about political party. It's supposed to be about God, period. But everybody gets up in arms about what political party you belong to. And then, after all of that insanity, we had an evangelist by the name of Donnie Swaggart, who attempted to rebuke the black church because Bishop J. Andrew Sheard, the presiding bishop and chief apostle of the Church of God in Christ Incorporated, endorsed Kamala Harris for president. If you have to preface a statement with some variation of, I'm probably going to be called a racist, you should most likely stop right there. If you have to preface any statement that you're about to make with, I'm probably going to be called a racist, you should probably stop right there. Because anything that follows after that particular statement is gonna be racist. If you've got to warn people that you're about to be racist, stop. Especially if what you're about to say is going to go out in front of a lot of people. Stop. For your sake, for mine, for everybody's, you're about to make a big mistake. And it's not going to be pretty. And it's going to get you and a lot of other people tied up in some foolishness. It's not going to be worth it. But then to make matters worse, he chose to make this particular misguided and very racist statement from the pulpit of the Family Worship Center Church in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. His daddy, the infamous Jimmy Swaggart, remains the senior pastor. You might remember Jimmy from his time in the spotlight in the late 80s and early 90s when he was a prominent televangelist, but is, at least to me and those people like me, is more memorable because he was caught in an affair with a prostitute in New Orleans and was defrocked by the Assemblies of God. And then 3 years later, was pulled over while driving in California with a prostitute in an unregistered vehicle on the wrong side of the street. And he's still pastoring this church where dear old Donnie decided to rebuke the black church because Bishop Sheard endorsed Kamala Harris. Now let me be very clear. Even with Bishop Sheard endorsing Kamala Harris, he wasn't endorsing her for pastor. He was endorsing her for president because he agreed with some of her policies. Not all, just some. And he was able to agree with more of her policies than with her opponent's policies. So, from a political standpoint, he chose to endorse the politician, not pastor, the politician that he was able to agree with more of the policies that he agreed with than the ones that he disagreed with. It's kind of a situation where if I agree with more of what this person on my right does than this person on my left does, then I'll side with this person on my right. We may not agree on everything. It might be a 60-40 split. But I have more in common with the person on my right than on my left. When he looked at the things Kamala Harris stood for versus what Donald Trump stood for, he decided he could agree with more of what Kamala Harris stood for. Even though he did not agree with everything Kamala Harris stood for, it was easier to stomach what Kamala stood for than what Donald Trump stood for. Even to this day, as a Christian, no, I do not agree with abortion at all. I don't believe that a child should have its life taken in the womb. But I also believe that when you get here, you should have quality life when you're alive too. I believe that our children should be able to go to school and be able to do so safely. I believe that common sense gun laws should be enacted. I am a veteran, served in the United States Air Force. Terribly. I'm not some lunatic gun nut who believes that the government is out to take away my right to bear arms, because I have also read the Second Amendment. And I am very much aware that the states have a right to have a well-regulated militia. So if you really want to get down and dirty with it, maybe we should have our states establish a well-regulated militia. I'll join, just to make sure we do it right. But when did being a Democrat or a Republican supersede being a Christian? Y'all, we got to do better than this. There's something seriously wrong with Western Christianity. We need to take a real serious look at the difference between Western Christianity and Eastern Christianity. Because it seems like the way we do it here in the West, we satisfied with being Christians so long as Jesus don't get involved. And that's pitiful. Because how can you be a Christian without the central part of the faith? Doesn't make sense to me. We need to get back to basics. Otherwise, the blueprint is not going to. Without Jesus, what is the point? I think that's part of the reason why so many people, especially in the United States, so many people don't take Christians seriously. Because you running around out here talking about all of these things like Jesus, Jesus, I'm a Christian, but they don't see the fruit. There's no evidence of the fruit. Why? Because you a Christian without Jesus. How can you be a Christian without Jesus? It's impossible. It's time out. Families need to get back together. If you call yourself a Christian, stop being out here backbiting, talking about one another. Be who you say you are. Stop being overly judgmental. Stop being so dramatic. It's time for us to express the love of Christ instead of trying to express the judgment of Christ. Let Christ judge for himself. We so busy trying to judge everybody that by the time it comes for the judgment of the lamb and the goat, ain't gonna be nobody left to judge. Let Jesus judge for himself. Let him judge for himself. Leave it up to him. How about we show some love to each other? Christ said that the greatest commandment was to love one another. Show some love. Blueprint for Life.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us here at Blueprint for Life. It is truly an honor to have spent this time with you. Here at Blueprint, it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in, whether you've been in church all your life or if you've never been before. We believe that God has a unique plan for everyone, and that by faith and through prayerful submission to Jesus Christ, all of us can have the life He designed, especially for us. Check us out on our website at www.blueprintforlifepodcast.com or on our socials on Facebook, Instagram, X, and TikTok. Please like, share, and follow to stay up to date on the latest news and upcoming info as we continue to share our insights on the Blueprint for Life.